Are you tired of living paycheck to paycheck while others build lasting wealth? Introducing Money Mondays, the show that's changing how families think about finances forever. Each week, we break down the strategies and mindsets that create generational wealth. We're not just talking about getting rich, we're talking about building a legacy. Join us every Monday and take the first step toward transforming your family's financial future. Money Mondays. Because true wealth isn't measured in years, but in generations.
Peace and blessings, everybody. This is Damon K here, and welcome to Money Mondays, when we talk about generational wealth, how to make money, how to support your family, how to live in this crazy world. And welcome to blackwestchester.com. We are live on YouTube, we are live on X, we are live on Instagram, we are live on LinkedIn, Facebook. We're live all over the place because we are always trying to give you the news with the Black point of view. And we're coming up right after Tasha Young's show at 6. That was early at 6. Elevation Nation. I hope y'all enjoyed that, because we had the lady from the IRS, because it's tax time. It's tax time, and Black folks need to do their taxes. So if you missed that show, you could catch that on YouTube. But tonight, Money Mondays, we're going to talk about insurance. How do we use insurance? Why we need insurance? Why we need life insurance? Why we need insurance for our house when you get a mortgage? Insurance is a part of life. And we're about to bring on my sister here, Tamika Cunningham. You know, I call her and sometimes she say, brother, you can't get that insurance. It's going to kill you. But we're going to bring her on, and she's doing great work in the Westchester community. Let's welcome my sister, Tamika Cunningham. What's happening? How you doing? Welcome.
I'm blessed. And you?
I'm great. I'm tired, but I'm right.
I know that already. Yeah, I know you're tired.
You popped in some of here yawning. Oh God! You know, I had a Zoom right before I came. You caught me doing some stuff, but then I was on a Zoom meeting before that. You know, and it was just nonstop all day, because you know this is busy, and when you have a news business, you got to keep up with the news. You know. You have to keep up in the news. So introduce yourself to everybody. Tell everybody what you're doing that's watching, and then we're going to get into the nitty gritty.
Okay, so as you said, my name is Tamika Cunningham. I am a licensed insurance professional. I have an agency, TR Insurance Agency, that's located in Elmsford, New York. However, we are licensed in 24 states. So, which means I can write in those 24 states. We do have a satellite office in Delaware and Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, great. 24 states. That's great. Now, let me ask you a question, right? Do you have to take tests to do insurance in those 24 states? Just in case people want it.
That's a good question. So no, it really depends on the state that you get your license in, because we live in the great old state of New York. We have reciprocity to other states. So all I have to do is really pay the fee in that state in order to get the application.
Okay, that's great. No, I mean, some people might want to become an insurance agent, you know, and because that's a you know what, I've been thinking about it, because I'm just sitting at this computer all day. And I've thought about it a couple of times too, and we'll talk about that offline. No, but we can talk about it here too, because it's Money Mondays. So, like, if somebody wanted to be an insurance agent, and you know, everybody needs insurance. You know, whether it's your car, your house, everybody needs insurance. What are the steps, to me? If somebody wants to become an insurance agent, what would they have to do? We're going to start with that.
I think that's great to start with. So in the state of New York, you have to take a 90-hour course. You have to log in those 90 hours. And once you pass the test, stating that you understand the information that was provided. Then you take the state test.
Okay.
Passing the state test, you need to pass a 70 or above.
Okay.
Once you pass that test, if you are a broker, then that's just really just the beginning. People think that once you get your license, then you could just be an insurance broker. And unfortunately, that's what I thought when I first started in, I'm not even going to say when, but a long time ago. And I learned it was a hard lesson, but it was a good lesson because it put me in a position to be where I am today. Because being an insurance broker, you have to gain the trust of different carriers. You represent the carriers.
Okay. Right.
Without the carriers, you're just a licensed broker.
Right.
So
okay.
There's some footwork that needs to be done unless you go under someone like myself. So like I hire producers, people who just want to sell, who are, great in sales. They usually come to me and we work out a deal. And they are producers. Basically, it's commission based, and they're salespeople. They want to be out getting business.
Right.
So I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
And selling insurance is very lucrative.
It is very lucrative. Yes.
Yeah, I watch what's the guy? He has a YouTube channel, but he's like a millionaire, and he made his millions off insurance, and he ended up just selling the company, cashing out, and now he's just on YouTube, talking money, and talking insurance. But he made his millions off of insurance, and
it's not hard to do if you set it up right.
Right. Well, we'll talk offline about that too. But let me ask a question too. With the whole thing in California, because a lot of people, my job is to know the news, right? And my job is to know information. And sometimes because we live in New York, we really don't understand like the importance of insurance, especially with the issue out in California, because a lot of those homes, they couldn't have insurance because of the state laws, they were saying. Now if you could correct me, now what are their options now if they didn't have it?
Well, unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, when you have a catastrophic loss like that, FEMA gets involved.
Okay.
FEMA and the government gets involved, and they will cap. Typically, FEMA caps at $250,000 on a single family, on a multifamily, $500,000. I'm not quite sure. I know they're making other arrangements for California with regards to that. What I love about California and that governor over there is that he is protecting his constituents. He is doing what a governor is supposed to do. He's mandating the insurance companies to stay on the risk. I love what I do. Because what people don't realize is insurance is the transfer of risk. Insurance is in place to protect your financial assets, whatever those assets are: home, auto, life, no matter what it is, jewelry. It protects it. And insurance is a part of the transfer of risk. So these companies, they come into, different states, and they make millions and millions and millions of dollars. And then they decide it's not profitable anymore. And then there's no governor that's saying that, oh no, we could just leave out and we done made all these millions. The insurance company, the people in place, senators, legislators, government, they do not mandate them to go through a process to be able to be removed out of a section. Now, in order to be an insurance carrier in states, you have to apply, you have to do your rates, you go through all of these different procedures. But in order to be removed out of that same state or not to offer coverage, there is no due diligence. And that's where I have the problem.
Okay.
Because in California, those houses, some of them were insured, and some of them, they had cancellations pending because the insurance decided that they didn't want to be in that state anymore.
Right.
The
Right.
governor put his foot down. He said, absolutely not. Don't worry. If you got a non-renewal, don't worry about it. They are mandating the insurance companies to stay on for a year. Kudos to him.
Now they could do that?
Yes. They have all the
Okay.
power. They
Okay.
are the ones that give the insurance companies the approval to increase rates, to say where
Right.
they want to do business, how they want to do business.
Right.
That the state is in charge of that.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
they should be
Because it
protecting
was
us.
right, because it was said because the insurance companies was pulling out because of whatever state laws that they passed. I guess it wasn't beneficial for the
It wasn't
insurance.
beneficial for them, right? They probably said you
Right.
can't go up any higher. They probably put a ceiling on their rates, capping it. And the insurance company, they're in business to make money.
Yeah, no. Listen, I
But at
know.
any means.
I know they in business to make money. They ain't, man, when I had my flood, they ain't even want to pay. I'm like, listen, man, y'all give me my money. You know.
See, flood, I had this conversation with someone, one of my customers, and she was actually calling in a claim. And my
Right.
requirement is before you call in a claim, you need to call me. You need to call
Right.
my office because words in insurance are so, it can be used for many things. So when you say flood, it could be an overflow of a sink.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a flood. The insurance terms of a flood is a body of water. It coming out your
Right.
sink, coming out your tub, coming out your sewer, that's not a flood.
Right.
So it's important to understand the words to use when you're discussing a claim or with your insurance professional.
That's good. Yep. Yep.
Words matter.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I call Sam.
Our handy dandy adjuster. Yes.
Listen, that was the first, I saw that water. I'm like, boop, 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 boop. Yo, all right, send the policy. He said we good, and he handled the rest. I barely talked to the insurance company.
You had an independent adjuster. Yep. And that's
Yeah.
I refer Sam when things become hairy and there could be, I know how the insurance companies operate. I've been doing this 30 years.
Wow.
So I understand exactly how they operate, the clue words that they look for. So I tell my customers, listen, you don't want to say this, you don't want to say that. You need to,
Right.
and it's not getting over, it's just
Right.
giving them the expertise because insurance professionals, they work with words. So as soon as you say flood, it's like, oh no, because your regular policy.
Oh, you're not covered, right? You're not covered.
You're not covered, right? That's the first thing they say. A homeowner's policy doesn't cover flood, and you're like, wait, what do you mean?
Exactly.
Words matter. It matters.
Exactly. Now, do you recommend an independent adjuster, or because some people,
I do. Especially if we're talking something that can be considered a large loss, you definitely want to have a professional backing you because the insurance companies, again, they are after their own interests. And I hate to say it in this fashion, but it's the truth. They're nickel and diming. They want to make sure that they're not going to, their job is to indemnify you, get you back to whole. They're not trying to make you, rich, but their definition of get you back to whole and your definition of get you back to whole may be two different things.
Right. Oh, wait, we got to explain what an independent adjuster is.
So an independent adjuster is one that works for the customer, for the insured. They work outside of the insurance company and you can hire them to handle your losses. They do charge a fee, and it's usually a percentage of whatever you're going to get back.
Right. So you're really not coming out of your pocket. When they cut the check, they cut the independent adjuster check. So you're really not missing anything. But my experience, in dealing with Sam and dealing with Allstate, Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm glad I had Sam because, they really it's a battle, but even the adjuster that came out from Allstate, he was really on our side because he had an issue with ServPro.
Okay.
And he already hated them. So it was crazy because he came in and he was like, oh, they did this. And I'm standing there, I'm looking at Sam, and Sam looking at me. I'm like, yo, this dude got an issue with this ServPro office.
That's usually
and
Sam doing all of that, though.
No, it was, listen, he was just like, this is the third time. They're done. They're done. I was like, yo, this guy was looking to get rid of these guys. He was like, I already had complaints on these guys and da-da-da. I was just like, wow.
And I'm glad to hear that, because most of the time you don't have a good experience with the company's adjuster.
Right.
So
no, the adjuster wasn't the problem. It was the people in the office that was the problem.
Yeah, it's usually one or the other.
Yeah.
It can be both sometimes. It really depends.
No, the adjuster was cool. It was dealing with the people,
Okay. He probably was a third party. It probably wasn't somebody. And when I say third party, that means someone who's not they're not an employee of Allstate.
Okay.
They are an adjusting company, and they are the third party doing the business for Allstate.
Right.
And usually when it's like that, they are a bit more friendly because they're not employees of the carrier.
Okay. Maybe it was. Maybe it was, but he just went after ServPro. He said this office is done. Like, they will not get nothing from Allstate ever again. And I was like, wow. But they were horrible, right? They were horrible. I don't wish that. I don't wish that on anybody. It's just a transition that if you have any type of water damage or anything, man, to try to fix it's happening to my cousin now, and she's, staying in a hotel and all that. That's crazy. It's just insane. It's really just insane. But when people are looking at home insurance, what are things that, like, not every insurance broker is honest, right? I'm just going to, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just saying, not every insurance broker is honest. And for first-time home buyers, because if you don't know anything about the insurance and what to get, what are the key things in the policy, for young couple? They're all excited, right? Everybody's excited when they get the house, and they say, well, you gotta get insurance, right? So you go to an insurance broker. Luckily, when I bought my home insurance, it was somebody that I knew that actually was dealing with auto insurance with my mother for years, right? And I just kept up with him. And I'm like, yo, dude, I need some home insurance. He said, I got you, right? So I trusted him. You know what I'm saying? But right. But with somebody that's just raw, they looking, they'll go online, they Google insurance, they call somebody. What are the things that they need to make sure that's in their insurance, in their home insurance, to make sure that they got the correct coverage?
So I'm going to say, I'm not going to say that everybody is dishonest. What I will say is everybody is not educated on policy forms and what an unendorsed or endorsed policy comes. So when I say unendorsed and endorsed, I mean how the policy comes without you adding all of the bells and whistles.
Right.
So a homeowner's policy does not include water backup, like what you experienced. Water backup, sewer backup, it automatically is excluded. You have to add that. Okay. There's not a policy that will leave my office that does not have that water backup, sewer, because you don't know when it's going to happen. And that is typical in a home. You're going to have a water backup, even in an apartment. If you're a rental, your upstairs neighbor tubs overflows and the water trickles down into your closet. What? All your stuff is gone. Who's replacing it? Landlord's not. The tenant is not. So I would say definitely water backup. And each company has different ways of saying that. So water backup, water sewer backup, everything but flood. Just no, that's not flood. Everything but flood. Water backup, sewer
Exactly.
backup. Another important thing is equipment breakdown. Equipment breakdown is you have a water heater, hot water heater, your heating system. If there's
Right.
some type of explosion or something, you want that to be covered.
Right. Right.
Equipment breakdown is very important. You
Okay.
want to make sure that your policy has all losses sustained on the, it's called loss of use, or if you have a two family and you're renting out one of the units is called, each company has different verbiage. So I'm trying to think of the main it's usually loss of use,
Okay.
or loss of rents.
Okay.
And either of those just means in the event, as you said, your cousin has to be displaced
Right.
because the house is inhabitable.
Mhm.
So your insurance is going to pay for you to either stay in a hotel or rent
Mhm.
another apartment. That's your
Mhm.
loss of use or loss of rents, because if you had a tenant, it would still be paying you your rent.
Right. Right. That's
So
what. Yeah. Right.
that's very important because you want to
Mhm.
make sure in the event that something happens that you have somewhere to go and you're not paying out of pocket. I think really those are the two vital things. Now you have a lot of other little bells and whistles, like your wires under there. If you have a house where your electricity or any wiring is underneath your home, you want power outage and under, again, every company says it different, but it's power outage, underline coverage, I believe is it's the broad term that everybody uses. So
Right.
you want to also make sure that you have that as well, because this happened to me. Con Edison sent a surge. They were having problems with the pole outside my house,
Mhm.
and they sent an electric surge, like to see if the power was working. And when they did that, they blew everything.
Really.
Everything blew in the house. The refrigerator, my hot water heater, the heating system, everything was gone. Dishwasher, anything that was plugged in that didn't have a surge was gone.
Wow. Wow.
So there's certain, again, you want to be with someone, a broker who's educated on what you're trying to purchase.
Right.
And I think, opposed to most people, we're in a day and era where we go online. We may fill out a form online or something like that, and we never get that one-on-one. Everything is
Mhm.
so fast in this world today. We live in a
Mhm.
fast-paced world where people, they don't understand the importance until something happens. And
Right.
then when the claim happens, then it's like, well, you didn't tell me.
Right.
So I think it's very important when you start doing business with someone to have that dialogue.
Right.
I just don't accept anybody. I'm very choosy about my customers. And when you're coming on as a customer, I have that dialogue with you. When, if there's a claim, I want you to call me first, because what I never want to encounter, and this happened to me early on in my career, is not explaining to a customer about claims, not educating them on their policy. The best customer is an educated customer
Right.
who, in the
Right.
beginning, I'm telling you everything, what you need to know, how to contact me if something happens, emergency,
Right.
and I keep that dialogue going with you. You can contact me up until a reasonable hour on my cell phone. But we offer that because you're entrusting in us your prized possessions, your
Right.
personal assets.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I advise people not to go with the easiest, but to go to do some fact finding.
Right. 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 Yeah.
Research the person.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's important.
Exactly. Yeah. Insurance is very important, and you have to trust that broker. I'm going to, and even in life insurance, right? And I'll tell you a quick story. My cousin's ex-husband. I mean, I went to their wedding, man. It was someplace in North Carolina, it looked like it was a town off an island, and it had cobblestone roads. It was in North Carolina. It was beautiful. Like the hotel, the cobblestone road went into the lobby of the hotel. It was crazy, right? The dude appeared to have crazy dough, right? They come the wedding, they come in on the with the horse and the carriage and everything, and I'm like,
that was fancy.
yeah, I'm like,
Ooh.
what? living in Atlanta, house looking like Tyler Perry, all this stuff. He was an insurance broker. What he was doing, he wasn't paying the people's premiums.
Oh.
Right? Now, he's out here buying property. My cousin ain't know. Right? When she found out when the feds called her in. Right, when the feds called her in, when they were about to drop. So what happened is people started dying one after another. So like if you got money, someone dies, they got whatever, he's pulling the money from here, he's pulling the money from there, he's making the payments, right? He's getting the people them checks. But it was my cousin was telling me it was just a freak 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, so he couldn't keep up
with the money,
with the life insurance payments, like because he wasn't paying in the premiums. People didn't know they didn't have life insurance.
Oh wow!
Exactly. So he ended up going to jail.
Yeah. Yeah, I would hope so.
My cousin was like, yo, I was like, you didn't know? She was like, yo, I'm telling you, I didn't. She was like, I didn't know. I didn't know anything. But she told me the story and I was like, what? She was like, yo, this dude, I mean, maybe she was married to him 2 years. Maybe it was 2 years. Yeah. Yeah. She said the feds called her in and everything. They broke down everything. They had his bank account. They had her stuff. And, so I guess whatever they saw, like she wasn't tied up into what he was doing, with the financials and all that. But she made money herself. So, it was just like the only thing they had was they bought a house together.
So the finances.
And, yeah. They bought a house together to rehab. Right. And she's always big on houses. She still buy houses, right? But they bought a house together. And that was the only thing that they had connected in the finance. But all the other stuff, but she showed that she made the money to do whatever she needed to do with that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they locked him up.
Wow.
They locked him up.
And that makes it bad for us, for other people, other professions in the business, because there's only a handful of us anyway.
Exactly.
There's only a handful of us. That's it. So for it to be such a small population, it makes it very difficult for people to want to do business with their own kind. I mean, when it comes to life insurance, that's a hard sell anyway. For some reason, minorities, like historically, they just have a problem. And I'm talking Black and Hispanic. They don't understand the importance of life insurance. And I find it so ironic because historically we are faced with the most barriers, health, like we struggle the most.
Right.
So you would think that we would protect ourselves.
Right. And it doesn't have to be $1 million life insurance. Whatever level you at, if you got 20, 30,000, 50,000, just something to hold your family over or whatever. It really doesn't have to be, a lot.
Policy that is very inexpensive depending on, so life insurance is based on your age and your health at the time. So what I do with my customers is I always advise them to start with your kids, start with your grandkids.
Yep.
Start young, because one, you're teaching them that life insurance is important. And then when they get to 18 or 21 and they got little $25,000 and they can go buy a car or put it towards their education, it's teaching them like, wow, I had this. This is the, and so then it becomes a practice. It becomes normal. It's normalized because they understand that I have this life insurance policy. This is what I got from it, and this is what I can do with it.
Right. Right.
And I think we just, we rather do a GoFundMe page. Women spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on their hair. I know women who pay $1,000 to get a weave in. Your life insurance policy will cost you about $200.
Right. Exactly. And now that China said all the bags are fake, so now China said they ain't from Paris or France. We make them right over here.
Right from here. In this chop shop in the back.
Man, listen, I couldn't wait to send that article to my wife. Say, look, I told you. I told you something wasn't right. Something wasn't right on TikTok. They was making those bags a little too good. You know what I'm saying?
Final expense for life insurance. Final expense is going to cover your funeral and your burial cost.
Yeah.
You can get a $20,000 final expense for a couple of $100, and at minimum, your family has money to bury you.
Right.
At minimum.
Absolutely.
Now,
absolutely.
For the people who are a little bit more, that want something more, I advise a whole life policy. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have a 401k, but I have a universal life insurance policy that's going to be I'm going to utilize it like my 401k.
Right.
So, there's so many different avenues that you can travel down. Quite honestly, Italians have used life insurance dating back to since the mob lifestyle. Everybody in their family had life insurance, because the one thing about life insurance is no one can touch your money. Not the IRS, not the FBI. Nobody can touch your life insurance policy. So people who understood the financial structure of it, they overfunded their life insurance policy, so they hid money.
Right. No, I mean, we have to learn that. We're not taught that. It's not the fact that we're poor. It's just we're broke. We don't utilize the money, the way that we're supposed to, and we're not building generational wealth because we're just not using the money. And that's why I said I hope China wakes black folks up and say, you know what, all that stuff that you spent on is really not even worth what it was.
Right.
It's not even. So now moving forward, take that money and invest in stock, get life insurance, do things that's going to create is going to create wealth. I think, this is the reason why I started Money Mondays also, that we have these conversations, because we have to pivot. Like the world is pivoting. The United States is pivoting. We as black people, we have to pivot too. We just can't, we just can't. Exactly. Marching and all that. No, finances. No. It's, it's not about marching. It's about figuring out your finance and making finance, part of the culture. Like you said, the Italians, they caught on to it years ago. The Jews, forget about it, right? We don't even want to get into that. And it's not knocking Jews. This is saying, y'all do your thing. You know what I'm saying? We get y'all do your thing. But when it comes to us, we just don't do those things. We don't look at money the way it needs to be looked at.
Education, I think, is educating, and it starts when you learn something. The best thing to do is to teach someone younger than you, because that's how they carry the information. There's a lot of big brands that people don't even know that was started with a life insurance policy. McDonald's. He started McDonald's with a life insurance policy.
Mm.
J.C. Penney's during the recession, they were able to stay open because of the life insurance policy.
Mm. Wow.
There's a ton of business names that we know that utilized a life insurance policy to start a business. We just don't. I use mine all the time. I take money out of my because you have, so if you have a whole life, you have a cash value that is for you to use when you're alive. The
Right.
death benefit is the death benefit. It's when you're dead.
Exactly.
But you have a cash benefit, and that's what it's there for you to use while you're alive. You make good investments. God forbid you get laid off or something, you can go and get your 6 months out of your life insurance policy if you did it correctly.
Right. And we have to teach them young, you know, because that's when your life insurance policy is the cheapest.
It is the cheapest. And in actuality, not only is it the cheapest, but I tell my customers that have young kids, make sure you buy a life insurance policy now with a rider where you can increase the coverage. And I say that because if you're 16 and under, they don't require, insurance companies don't require a paramed, which is basically your health.
Right.
So they're not checking the health of a 15-year-old and down. So let's say your 12-year-old has diabetes or, lupus. It could have anything. They become uninsurable when they after the age of 16. So if you got them life insurance prior to that age, then they would have a life insurance policy for life.
Right.
So it's important. It's a way of making sure that your children have a life insurance in the event that something happens to them medically.
Right. Absolutely. No, that's great. Now what you talked about how you could create generational wealth, right? Does credit come into play with insurance?
So yes, more and more, but it's a insurance credit score. So they're compiling all of the data in LexisNexis, which is the system that holds all of your data. And it's based on your payment history because the insurance companies are reporting it. If you had insurance, if you haven't, all of that information is in this data. And the insurance company, when your name is pulled, whether it doesn't even have to be your social, it could be your address and your date of birth. They pull all that data out, and it creates an insurance credit score. So that score then determines how you rank and what tier you'll fall in within that particular insurance company.
Okay. So, right. Yeah. And don't get glass insurance because it'll mess your credit score up.
Well, you and I had this conversation 2 weeks ago. Well, again, having an insurance professional is important because you didn't even know that. No, I talked to my Tika about that. It was me and my Tika were talking.
Well, I was the one doing the claims on the windows because when you have the truck, the window goes straight up. So driving on the highway, it comes and it breaks, so I'm like,
that's what I got insurance for. That's what I got insurance for. Yeah,
exactly. The window guy come, he put the new joint in, exactly. So, but if I would have known, I would have paid for the damn window myself, right? That it would be a strike against me.
It is considered a claim.
Exactly.
Claims, even roadside assistance. Yeah, if it's considered a claim, you're utilizing.
I got AAA, man. I ain't messing with no insurance.
But see, you beat me to the point. I send out blast emails to my customers. I tell everybody to get AAA because it doesn't go against your insurance score. It doesn't go against your claims history.
Right.
And you can use it unlimited.
Right.
I had a customer who her car wouldn't start and she didn't want to buy a new one. So she was calling them every day, to the fact where they non-renewed her. No.
What, AAA?
No, her insurance company.
Why would you call your insurance company if your car don't start?
Because she wanted roadside assistance to come and jump her. And she had, I want to say, it had to be somewhere like 7 or 8 in 1 month. And the insurance company, they said,
Why did she get AAA? She just got AAA.
People don't listen to me. That's why. I tell everybody, AAA. AAA, do your roadside. You don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. We had AAA. Our car, we was in, where was we at? We was in Philly. We went out to Philadelphia to see Minister Farrakhan. We drove out there, no problem. Parked the car, no problem. Went inside, got the word, no problem. Came outside, the car wouldn't start. I was like, yo, this is crazy. Car wouldn't start. Called AAA. It was within the miles.
Mm-hmm.
They came and took it straight to the mechanic. Came the next morning. It was in the parking lot, so they came. Luckily, it was someone from Westchester there. We rode home with them.
Okay.
And they came the next morning, took it straight to the mechanic shop, man. And, that's can't beat it.
No, you can't. Not for $100 for the year.
Exactly.
Not for $100 a year. Absolutely not.
Exactly. But we have to look at those things, and we don't talk about it.
No, but it's hard to tell somebody. What I feel is that people really don't understand insurance is supposed to be for catastrophic loss.
Okay.
I beat this in their head. Insurance is the transfer. You're transferring. So you have to hold some type of, your deductible is you self-insuring. So you need to self-insure at some point in time. Right. Yes, you're paying for insurance. Nobody's taking that, but it's supposed to be if the cars are caught on fire, if somebody steals it.
Right.
Let's think big here, and everybody thinks small, and then they get pissed off at me and the insurance company because they can't. Well, that's what I pay for. No, if you were paying for having somebody to come out there anytime you wanted to, you wouldn't be able to afford the premium.
Right.
So this is a workaround, and I think it's important to have a broker that has these workarounds.
Right.
And explaining it to you. My car insurance, I have customers that say, well, what is your deductible? I said, listen, what I do for a deductible and what you do for a deductible is 2 different things, because I'm self-insuring. I know I'm not calling in a claim that's under $5,000 because you got to live with that 5 years.
Right.
Claims stay on your record for 5 years, and the company has the right to surcharge you. That means increase whatever you were paying.
Right.
So I look at what it is. My window shield cracked. You know what? I call SafeLight. I still have SafeLight coming to it, but guess what? I put it on Tamika's credit card.
No. Listen, I if I would have known, when you told me, I was like, what are you talking about with them claims? What hell claims you talking? I said, oh my God, the glass windows, right?
Windows.
Yeah, because it's the Nissan and the truck twice, the Nissan once, and it's just like I don't know, then I got ran in the back, on the bridge, but that was a real claim. But it was just like, you just don't know, because you think, it's cool, but you don't know down the road to that it affects you. Exactly. And then you talking about you gotta wait for 5 years. You ain't gotta worry about me calling for the window for ever. I'm about to take all that. I'm about to call them. I still got it. No, I'm about to call. Listen, man, take all that window stuff off, man, because I ain't worried about it.
Yeah.
Exactly, because I'm not even trying to do that. And then I got AAA. I got AAA, and AAA for people that some people they're nervous about it, but it works well.
I I've had AAA for the last 3 years, me personally,
Mhm.
and I like it, especially now because it has the DMV services. So it's actually even more beneficial now.
Yeah, exactly. That's yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and, they're growing, and people need to utilize that. That's good. So if people need to get AAA and have insurance, $100 a year. Come on, I mean, we spend that on a bag of weave, on our nails. You know what I'm saying?
Easily, a Manny and a Petty is an easy $100.
Yeah, absolutely. Even for a man.
Easy.
Even for me, like $70. God damn, what happened to the $30? You,
No, that's
you know
all
what?
right.
Exactly. Exactly. So what are there any new trends in insurance or new things that people need to know?
Um, there are not any new trends right now. We are in a very hard market, so I
Mm.
would advise people, if you have insurance, stick with it. We're gonna have to ride this out. The forecast, they were saying by this summer that we were going to see some easement off of prices and stuff. I don't
Mm.
I definitely,
Really?
that's not going to happen, especially
Really?
with the current situations that are going on with the all of that. I don't even want to say it.
That guy, right? That guy
Yeah,
that's just
that guy, yeah,
that's just gangster down there. He's just doing whatever he
right. The original OG.
Death Row Records in the White House, right?
Right, in the White House. He a crip of blood or something. He made his own something. I don't know what he's something,
Yeah, man. Trump is a mess.
but I personally don't foresee it being. It was supposed to, and they were predicting this before Trump, so that
Mhm.
by summer of 25, things should level off. It's not going to go down, but it should level off. I
You don't
that's
think it? You don't think it's
no,
going to be
no, no, not the way I see the rates. I'm doing this every day, all day.
right? The
No,
race is crazy.
especially on the Northeast. We're being penalized on auto. We're being penalized with property. Anything,
Why,
any
and why,
coverage.
and why, and why is that? Why is that?
New York and California are the top two states for fraud. Yeah, when you see those Pennsylvania license plates or that Georgia license plates, that's insurance fraud. They don't really reside there.
So what that got to do with New York?
Because they're
What?
not, because when they have
You
accidents in New York, they're not paying into the New York
yeah,
insurance fund. That's
yeah,
why.
but you penalize people that's doing the right thing and not going after the people that's doing the wrong thing.
Well, how can you? Because then you have to prove it.
Well,
There's
they
a
better
basis
get Elon Musk and Doge and
to uncover it, right? Yeah,
and,
they
fi-
take a,
and get all these people out there. Right? Wow, that's crazy. That's insane.
I remember going back to 2003, 2004, 2005, when I would call underwriters and they were like, "Well, what state are you calling from?" New York. And I'm like, I'm like, "Oh." What do you mean?
Really?
Oh, yeah, they would quiz me harder. Before we became so electronic, when we would have to call companies and get things done or
Right.
submit
Right.
documents via fax and all of that,
Right. Right.
we would have to, yeah, and it was like I would get questioned so much more than someone calling from Pennsylvania or Maryland. They always had harder underwriting guidelines for the state of New York. And right now, our rates are higher. Companies are pulling out. I have companies that I've been writing for the last 10 years in New York that are not even accepting business right now.
Wow. Wow.
I have one company that if you want coverage with them, you have to take pictures all over your car. If you're trying to get a house, they want a picture of the outside of your door to make sure you really live there.
Mhm.
They take the fun out of it.
But they used to do that. I mean, I remember they used to do that all the time. I used to go to this little spot, the little glass spot in Elmsford, and they used to
It's
take pictures
glass.
of Yeah, they used to take pictures of the car, but then all of a sudden you don't have to do that no more.
So yes, you do. So yes,
Oh,
you still have to. That's an inspection. So that's just the company verifying if it's a used car, what damage is already on there.
oh,
That's
okay.
basically what that is. It's just the insurance company is confirming that there are no prior damages prior to you insuring with us. So in the event there is a loss, we won't be paying for your old damage and your new damage.
Right.
So,
But that also protects the person, because if he's done work to the car, like, you know, with the rims and
exactly,
all
you have
that
the
other
pictures
stuff.
of it. Mhm.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
people
because
don't look at it in that aspect. Yes, it does. It is protecting you.
I look at it like that. I put a lot of money in my truck, so
Right.
you know, I make sure they have the pictures of what it looked like, the rims that's on it, and all the bells and whistles that's around it, because I want it. If I get hit, I want to
You want them to replace it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's important. It's important. But that is really to make sure that you don't get over. And now
Right.
they stopped the inspections during COVID. They have started it
Yeah.
again, but
Yeah,
most
they
if
did.
you get a new car, they just ask you to send over the bill of sale, and it tells you
Right.
everything
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
the
If it's
vehicle.
new. Right. Yeah. Yeah. If it's new. If it's
Mhm.
new. If it's new. That's wow, man. You know. So what? First of all, before you go,
Mhm.
if people want to get in contact you, talk to you about life insurance, home insurance, car insurance, how do they get in touch with you?
You can reach us at 877-239-0369. 877-239-0369 is our 800 number. You can reach us on Facebook, TR Insurance Agency Inc. You can reach us on Instagram. Same thing, TR Insurance Inc. Our website is www.trinsuranceenagency.com.
That's great. That's great. And anything else you want to let people know about insurance?
Insurance
About
is really it's to protect your financial interest. That's
exactly.
that's the best way to put it. And you want to be protected.
Exactly. No,
Peace of
and
mind.
I think, well, yes.
That would be
You
my
know,
closing remarks. Peace of
peace
mind.
of mind. Listen, I thank you. I thank you for coming on. Applause,
I'm more than welcome anytime. My
applause
pleasure.
for coming on. And everybody, this is Money Mondays, and we're here every Monday at 8. Oh, trying to pause it, try to went back again. We're here every Monday at 8 p.m. and check us out tomorrow. Balling on the Budget, where we talk about scents, colognes, perfumes, you know, that you don't have to spend $1 million to smell like $1 million. So check us out tomorrow at 8 p.m. I'm going to be talking about, since people are on, I'm going to talk about the mirror line. I'm going to talk about the mirror line tomorrow. Let me see if I could make sure I'm in the camera. This is Super Crush, and I can't even see this one. Sadrat Essence, Super Crush, and Sadrat Essence is from the mirror. It's from the mirror line, and I'm going to be talking about this. You know, we're getting into spring, so we got to get some nice scents. A lot of them are unisex, you know, so men and women can wear them, but we're going to have the conversation about it tomorrow.
And there's nothing
And
wrong with smelling good.
oh no, you got to smell good, and you don't have to spend, and you ain't got to spend 400, you know, I used to spend all that money. I used to go get the Creed, $450, and Montique would be like, you crazy, spend all that money for cologne. And then I just started looking around and figuring it out, and I'm like, yo, I could spend $60 on something that will last just as long, will smell just as good, you know, and I don't have to spend all that money. You know, if it, you know, because either you smell good or you don't, right?
That part. Mhm.
Smell don't have a label, you
Sure
know,
does.
unless you into that. You know, unless you into that. I was at the when we were staying at the hotel, I came down the lobby and waiting on the truck, and I had this cologne called Afnan Highness, and it's if you don't know, you'll think it's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy was like, "Oh, that's Creed," you know. I'm like, "Nah, man, it's Afnan Highness Blue." He's like, "Afnan Highness Blue." I'm like, "Yeah." You got it on Amazon and it's $48. He was like, "Seriously? Show me."
He got it online.
Like, who wants to spend $400 or $500 when you could get something for $50-$60 to smell just as good and last just as long? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm on a fixed income. You know, I can't be out here spending no more.
Well, I will make sure I'm tuned in because I want to boil on a budget.
Yeah. I have a video up from Valentine's Day with all the women colognes, you know, for guys that want to buy women colognes and what their, I'm not going to say replica, or what their scents are like, what they're inspired by, you know, and they're good, you know, they're good. Montika said they're too strong, you know, and I said, well, when you drive for an hour to an event, by the time you get to the event, it's really good. You're good to go.
Right.
And that's why I like them, because they last long, and it takes us an hour and a half, especially if we're going down to the city, takes us an hour and a half to get to the thing. And then if you get some old weird, cheap, not good smelling cologne, by the time you get there, you ain't smelling nothing
at all. But
you know,
like outside.
Exactly. But thanks again, Tamika, and thank everybody that's watching, and we'll be back next Monday, and Tuesday is Bowling on the Budget, Wednesdays is Wellness Wednesdays, and Thursdays is Motivational Thursdays, and every Friday morning at 8 a.m. We do the morning tea where I run my mouth for about an hour live. And check y'all out, and thank you, Black Westchester, the news with the Black point of view. Have a Blacktastic Monday, and peace out, everybody. We are out.
Are you tired of living paycheck to paycheck while others build lasting wealth? Introducing Money Mondays, the show that's changing how families think about finances forever. Each week, we break down the strategies and mindsets that create generational wealth. We're not just talking about getting rich. We're talking about building a legacy. Join us every Monday and take the first step toward transforming your family's financial future. Money Mondays. Because true wealth isn't measured in years, but in generations.